Live soccer is back. Watch Orange County Soccer Club, OC's highest level of professional soccer, live on your view. Watch Orange County SC take on the Oakland Roots SC, Saturday, June 12th at 7. Watch world-class players and future stars. Transform your summer with the new family game night and outdoor fun all season long. Live soccer is back. Orange County versus the Oakland Roots, Saturday at 7 on your view.
Welcome to another episode of Left Coast Sports with Jon Schaeffer, and this week I'll be joined by Brian Stensaas of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. We'll preview the upcoming U.S. Open at Torrey Pines here in San Diego, with this being just the second time the Torrey has ever hosted the event. The first was back in 2008, that memorable Monday playoff between Tiger Woods and Rocco Mediate, with Woods eventually capturing his third U.S. Open title and 14th major championship. There are plenty of storylines heading into this year's U.S. Open, including Phil Mickelson, hoping to capture lightning in a bottle and win his first ever U.S. Open here in his hometown of San Diego. But as always, before we get started with today's episode, please give us an auto download on your podcast platform so you get future episodes automatically. Left Coast Sports is on most podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, the free iHeartRadio app, YouTube, and Spotify. You can leave a review as well, and I'd appreciate it if you followed me on Twitter at Jon Schaeffer, JONSCHAEFFER, at Jon Schaeffer. The Torrey Pines South course is one of the most challenging courses in the world and will serve as the backdrop for this year's U.S. Open. Who are the favorites? How will the course play? Is Torrey in line to host future major championships? That and more in my conversation right now with Brian Stensaas. You know, the last time the U.S. Open, Brian, was at Torrey Pines, only 2 players shot under par, and we had that classic, obviously. Would that be your expectations this time around, or do you think the course will play drastically differently than 2008?
I would hope. Well, I shouldn't say actually. I would hope. I would think that we'll have more than 2 players duking it out at the end under par, and that'll be it. They're not going to go crazy low at a course like that, I don't think. But certainly, just given the talent and the scores from some of the majors and just the recent events we've had, I just think it's the influx too of just the younger crowd, younger talent that's come on tour in the last 13 years, even the last 5 years. I just think that the scores are reflecting that the talent is out there and it's a lot better. And I would expect some under par scores at the end there, more than 2.
Is it a little bit of a fine line typically for the USGA in terms of trying to protect the integrity of the score, but also not trying to make the course either too hard or too difficult?
Yeah, they want viewership. I mean, people like to see players. Now there are some people who like to see players struggle, because the weekend golfers like myself, that's what we would do on these courses. Like, hey, that they can make a bogey too. But the majority of your casual golf fans who tune in 4 times a year want to see players making long putts, sticking the ball close and making birdies. They want to see those red numbers. And I think the USGA is aware of that, but the USGA also doesn't want the final score to be 21 over or 21 under at the end of the week. They want to say, look what we can do. So I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think they want good scores. They know the fans want low scores, but they also want to show that they can set up a course that's going to be difficult. And, Mike Davis on his way out at the USGA, I think is going to put a really good course together. I think he's going to go out with a bang. I think he's probably got a few tricks up his sleeve for Torrey.
What makes this South course so unique and challenging and such a good course to host an event like this?
I just think the uniqueness of it, the terrain, the views that you can get, with drone coverage and everything else. Like I said, it's all about the eye. It's all about the fan and people who are clicking through. If you're just going to see a tree-lined golf course, they might not stop. But if you get that drone footage of the word exact cliffs or, whatever that terrain is out there, it's just so gorgeous and beautiful. And it's like Pebble Beach, Torrey Pines, those you can recognize them almost immediately. And it's just one of those special courses that, even when it's just a normal, like a farmer's event, it's there, you can recognize it right away. And that's what makes it so special, is just the uniqueness of it. And, the course itself, it's got a little funkiness to it. And I think, and the players will acknowledge that right away. And even, like I said, even casual fans, I think, can recognize that this is not your typical golf course. And it's something special. And that's why, it gets events like this, because the USGA loves it. And I think the players gravitate toward it. They like playing there.
Phil Mickelson has had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Torrey. I don't think he's won there in 20 years, since all the way back in 2001. Obviously, he's coming off that marvelous weekend for the PGA Championship. But what are your expectations for Phil this time around?
I think Phil's going to have a little bit of a pep in his step, and why wouldn't he? After what happened, at the PGA Championship, and he realizes that he knows that he's in his 50s now, and this is probably his he's getting down his last few shots at completing that Grand Slam, and what better place to do it in Southern California and Torrey, right at his near his home. But also, can lightning strike twice? I don't know, that performance he put on. I think the last time I talked with you, John, you asked me about him, and I said, he's going to remember the losses more than the wins, and he's at the end of his career. And then, like, 2 weeks later, he shut me up and he goes out and wins the thing. So that's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'll see if he can do it again. At a course that he maybe has the best luck at, and certainly an event that he hasn't had the best luck at. Phil talked a lot about the mental side of his game during the pandemic, and at once golf started up again, and now in the beginning of 2021, just how he's really focused a lot on his mentality on the course, not just his swing structure and everything else. And maybe he found something there, but you also have to wonder, if he shoots a couple of good rounds there and to start out, is he going to start to wonder? Is he going to start to think back to winged foot and all the other times that he's been so close? But then again, Torrey Pines is a completely different animal for him. So I'm sure he's going to have, like you said, love, hate. I think there's going to be some good, some bad, but the golf will take care of itself.
Is any of his legacy at this point still tied to the U.S. Open failures, or has he overcome that with all the other success he's had elsewhere?
I certainly think he's overcome it. I mean, he's done enough in his career, and this last chapter is still being written. But what he did at the PGA Championship is just, it's put a lot of that, maybe those, Phil has dropped off conversation to bed. I mean, he's not among the favorites, maybe, but he's certainly, you can't forget about him. And I've said before, I think all the runner-up finishes eat at him and are a big part of his story. And probably what he would mention first is he's had so much success and all the green jackets and all the other majors and all the other wins, but he also knows how close he's come. And when you talk about just those select few who have been able to get the Grand Slam, and he's not one of them, he's come so close. I certainly think that is going to still be a major part of his story. But what he did at the PGA Championship has certainly probably erased some of that doubt, or at least that recent doubt. Why are you still playing? You go play on the Champions Tour. You're 50. You're mowing down that field. Why not just play that every week? And I think he showed why, is that he's not done on the regular PGA Tour.
I wanted to ask you about another local golfer in Xander Schauffele, who's from San Diego, played at San Diego State. He's really played well in U.S. Opens, although he didn't play well in the PGA Championship. What do you expect maybe from Xander, who's a guy that's always been lurking over the last 3 or 4 years? Could this be a weekend that he's in contention on Sunday?
Absolutely. I expect, the PGA Championship wasn't, his best event, clearly a big stumble there, but he's one of those, he's one of the guys that's in the conversation of this next wave, these up and coming players. And he's shown in his brief career, 2017, I think he was the rookie of the year. He's got what it takes to compete, and he will for a long time. I think, again, you talk about it being home, talk about his history with, his dad's the only coach he's ever had. He's got a big family connection, loves the area. Maybe didn't play on the course a ton when he was growing up, but certainly knows it. I think I saw earlier this week that he was there in 2008 as a little kid, watching the Tiger and Rocco go back head to head, back and forth, and it just it's home, right? And it's like we were talking about with Phil, and I think there is something to be said about that. I've asked golfers about courses, coming back to, you won here before, does that matter? They'll say, no, it's not really the course because it changes. But when you talk to a golfer about coming home, if I'm here in Minnesota, if you talk to a Tom Lehman, or you even somebody like a Tim Herron, or you talk to like a Steve Stricker playing in the Midwest, or somebody like that, when they get in their comfort zone, they just play better. They got people around it, and there's something to be said about that. And with all the talent in the world, which is what clearly Xander has, yeah, I definitely have him circled as a player to watch next week.
Is there a type of golfer that would perform well typically at a course like Torrey Pines?
I'm not sure. God, that's a great question. I think now all the players are so accustomed to it. Yeah, some play better in different types of grass, or the way that a fairway is seated, or a green is mowed, or something like that, or a certain kind of graduated rough that we'll see in these different courses. But gosh, now with all this technology and all this, these uh yeah, technology that they have, and they can go out and practice, be like, oh, if I take this and do that and swing a certain way, it's so much more advanced now, even within the last few years. And you look at like a Bryson DeChambeau situation, where he found out a way that he can just bomb that ball better, and it's just it doesn't work for everybody, but he knows it works for him. Somebody wants a little bit more, less distance, but can be more accurate, that sort of thing. So I know I'm dancing around this question because I'm not really sure. It's I don't know if this type of layout, this type of climate, this type of, the way that the course is really factors one way or the other. I just think guys every week, they're ready no matter where they are. And they're, I think what's a bigger deal is just what all comes with it. Yeah. You have a legendary course here. Oh, and by the way, it's a US Open. And I think that's kind of the more, what players can, just put their head down and go out and play, and not worry about all the different flags and all the different countries that are represented and everything else that comes with the US Open. That's so cool when you're there. The US Open is just a marvelous event. It's so cool to attend. And I think a player that can just be like, yep, I'm going to go out and play no matter where we are. I don't care if we're, somewhere out east, somewhere out west, in the deep south. It doesn't matter. We're going to go play golf, and I'm going to go win. And I think that's the type of player that's going to be, obviously that's going to come out on top.
I wanted to ask you about Jon Rahm, who had that crazy scenario, obviously, with the positive test at the Memorial with the large lead. He's very familiar with Torrey in San Diego. His first win was out of Farmers Insurance. He was engaged, I believe, in San Diego. He spends a lot of time in Southern California. Is he the type of golfer who was playing really brilliant golf that weekend that could bounce back and perform well?
Yeah, if he plays, I haven't heard if he's been cleared yet. I think he's still in quarantine. But again, we have got some time here yet. I believe he's still the betting favorite right now. And why wouldn't he be? The way that, he had that golf tournament won last week. I mean, Jon Rahm he can get a little fiery and he can get a little whatever. That's not a type of golfer that gives away a 6-shot lead like that. He had that golf tournament won on a Saturday. And, again, John, getting back to that mental side of it, if he can put all that behind, if he can get out and play, and I have no idea how much he's been able to practice, what's all, it's with this quarantine thing, or what he has to do. I have no idea what the protocols are, but boy, if I were, bottle it, what did you have last week? And take it into Torrey and just blow the field away. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. He, every analyst or every, expert, way above where I am as far as knowing what golf's about, has said that this is the next guy to break through. He's got everything. He can putt. The greens at Torrey are going to be lightning fast. He likes that. It's going to be, and so absolutely he can, but it all just depends on whether or not he's been able to get out and hone his skills. He may, when he swings a club, when he gets on property, it might be the first time he's swung in a while. Who knows? So that's going to be a big question mark. But yeah, I think he's a fiery guy, and I think he'll take some of that, and probably maybe, the way that they handled that on the 18th green was just embarrassing, I think. And he might want to kind of stick it to him a little bit, even though it's the USGA, not the PGA Tour. Still, I think he'll take some of that and use it to his advantage.
Who are some other names to potentially keep an eye on that could be in contention over the weekend, or even as late as the back nine on Sunday?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I have anybody really off the board, to be honest. But you look at guys that can, Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, guys that can really hit it far. I really look for Rory McIlroy. It seems like Rory McIlroy's turned the corner a little bit. He, had a kid, was figuring some things out, switching out either some clubs or some teachers or both or something like that. It looked like he's maybe turned a little bit. Again, at the US Open, or I'm sorry, at the PGA Championship, not his best, but I think still working on some things. And then Jordan Spieth. Talk about a guy who kind of came back from, I'm not going to say nowhere. I mean, he had such early success at such a young age, and then he kind of fell off a little bit, but man, that guy's come back so strong, and certainly is one that for last year at this time or a year and a half ago, you would have never really thought, oh man, what's wrong with Jordan? Not anymore. His game has come back full circle, and he's definitely going to be in the mix. And then, but the U.S. Open, I love it because there's just not that any of the qualifiers are going to have anything to say about it, but there's always you always see the names on the U.S. Open that you kind of think, oh, that's right, he's playing in this, or that's, they get a couple of these open qualifiers, and I really, some names that aren't going to be there. Jason Day is not going to be there. Ricky Fowler's not going to be there. Those are two really big names that you usually would see on the major leaderboard that aren't going to be there. So that part of it too, you might want to look and see. Again, I don't have anybody. I'm not betting or anything, but there's really nobody off the board that I'm thinking of. But again, yeah, DJ and DeChambeau. DeChambeau showed it last year. This is the type of setup that he thrives on. And I think come Sunday, like you asked me a little while ago, I think there's going to be a good number of people under par, and I think it's going to be a real fun race at the finish.
And then lastly for you, Brian, should San Diegans expect that the U.S. Open could return to Torrey? This is only the second trip and the first time in 13 years. Do you think it's in future rotations, or is that still to be determined?
Well, it's to be determined, but I would. Why not? Who wouldn't want to come to that part of the country? It's gorgeous. It's like I said, it's a special course. I think the players like it. And the USGA likes history too. And I think what happened there in 2008, if we get something next week similar, or some kind of drama or some kind of big thing, people are going to remember. People always think of now the Tiger Woods at Torrey Pines. If something else, kind of gets behind it, and you get another fun moment down there, the memorable moment, they're going to want to come back. Me personally, I like when it's a little closer to home, but we're not going to get anything like that in Minnesota. We don't have any USGA style really courses anymore. The Hazeltine isn't a U.S. Open course. Wisconsin has Erin Hills, but hey, if it's not going to be somewhere in my backyard, why not bring it back to San Diego every few years? I think everyone would benefit from that.
Brian, I appreciate you doing it. We're looking forward to what should be a really fun event out here in San Diego next week, and thanks for your insight and knowledge, and I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Anytime, John. Love talking to you.
Thanks again to Brian for joining us today. The U.S. Open kicks off Thursday, June 17th on the South Course at Torrey Pines in San Diego. The event is expected to have limited capacity because of COVID-related restrictions in California in the months leading up to the Open. Also, this reminder, the eyes of the world will turn to Tokyo for the Olympic Games this summer. Catch all the action leading up to the Olympic Games with Countdown to Tokyo every Tuesday on YourView. You'll get the latest news on preparations for the Games, details on the sports involved, and in-depth insights into teams, athletes, and the host city. Don't miss Countdown to Tokyo, Tuesdays on YourView. If you haven't already, please subscribe and auto-download future episodes on whichever podcast platform you're listening to this podcast on right now. And please leave a review as well. And once again, follow me on Twitter at Jon Schaeffer, JONSCHAEFFER at Jon Schaeffer. For previous episodes or more information about Left Coast Sports, visit yourview.com. That's YURVIEW.com. Thanks for listening. We'll catch up next week right here on Left Coast Sports with Jon Schaeffer.